to Senator Rand Paul and to his father Ron Paul, who are fans of the legalization of marijuana. I am opposed to the legalization of marijuana for one reason. I mean, more than one reason, but for this reason, and this reason alone is sufficient for me. If this is the only reason I had, I would still be opposed to it. I'm primarily opposed to it on the grounds of principle because Paul makes it very clear, scriptures make it very clear in Ephesians 5:18 that we are not to be under the control of anything except for the Holy Spirit. That's where Paul says, remember, do not be drunk with wine, but be filled with the Holy Spirit. The alternative to being filled with the Holy Spirit is being filled with spirits, being drunk with wine or any other kind of substance, or letting any other kind of substance kind of control you and take control of you and your soul and your mind and your body. And Paul says nobody but God should be in control of your body. I remember one time when I was in college, I was taking a class from a world-famous psychologist, and he wanted to hypnotize all of us. There's 400 of us in this lecture room. And I said, no, I'm not going to do it. I am not going to let anybody take control of my mind. And I have since read that, under hypnosis, that's one of the ways where you are sort of left completely open. You've opened your mind up to somebody else for control. And now that person may not have any devious designs toward your mind, but you have opened your mind up to forces that he may not be able to control and that you may not be able to control. You may have invited something into your life that you don't even know it came in there, and it has designs against you that are not good. So I'm primarily opposed to marijuana use just for the same reason I'm opposed to drunkenness, same reason I'm opposed to cocaine use and heroin use. It's turning control of your humanity over to something other than God, and we never, ever ought to do that, whether it's hypnosis or whether it is marijuana. But now we got this disturbing story out of Colorado about these pocket hookahs, they're called. These are tiny little things. They look like writing pens. They look like asthma inhalers. They resemble lip gloss sticks. They come in the same hot pink or sparkly purple as teenage girls' smartphone cases, but they're hookah pipes for marijuana. And they're portable, and they're tiny. They're the kind of things, they're called vapes for short because they are portable pot vaporizers. You put the pot in there, light it up, and it vaporizes the pot so you can breathe in the fumes. So they're called vapes, short for vaporizers, or pocket hookahs by users. So you can smoke one of these, for instance, on a chairlift. You could smoke it on a break at school. Because it vaporizes the marijuana, it reduces the amount of odor, which is typically a dead giveaway. So they're fairly easy to disguise. And so these are sort of considered the iPods of roach clips. These are the iPods of getting baked. And one of the things that we have talked about before is that just from a public policy standpoint, from a public health standpoint, everywhere that marijuana is legalized, marijuana use among teenagers goes through the ceiling. Now, you can pass all kinds of laws you want, saying only over the age of 21, but everywhere that marijuana is legalized, we have it in 16 states now, including Colorado this year and Washington, everywhere that marijuana use is legalized, usage among teens, even though it's illegal, they don't care about that. They just want to get baked. They just want to get high. And they've got older brothers or older siblings or relatives or friends, older friends, who will get it for them and provide it for them. And they can go in and buy one of these little pocket hookahs, and then they can toke away to their heart's content. And the disturbing thing, and this is what I want Rand Paul and Ron Paul to know, and anybody else listening to me that's in favor of legalization, latest figures from the Colorado Division of Behavioral Health, Healthy Kids Colorado survey shows that in the previous 30 days, 23 to 32% of high school age students said they had smoked marijuana. You got more kids, it's 12 to 17% smoking cigarettes. You have more kids in Colorado, more high school students in Colorado that are smoking weed than are smoking cigarettes. 32% of teenagers, high school students in Colorado, are toking up, a lot of them using these pocket hookahs. The problem with that is the damage that marijuana does to adolescent brains. I'm looking at a story here. Let's see. This is from Medical News Today. Title of the piece, Marijuana in Adolescence Can Cause Permanent Brain Damage. I mean, this, ladies and gentlemen, this is not a light matter. This is not a laughing matter. Teenagers that use marijuana are literally damaging their own brains. And they tend to have less control than adults. They'll use more. They'll use it. There's never a wise time to use it, but they'll use it even more foolishly than adults. They'll consume more. And the more they use, the more damage it does. A study in mice from the University of Maryland School of Medicine reveals that regular use of marijuana during adolescence, remember 32% in Colorado. Rand Paul, are you listening? 32% of high school students in Colorado right now are baking their brains. They're damaging their brains because marijuana has been legalized just like you want it to be done. Doesn't matter that the age is legal age is 21. And that's what bothers me about this. It's like there's this callous, cavalier attitude. I'm not accusing Senator Paul of this because I think he truly cares about people, but I'm saying this is short-sighted. People are not realizing the damage that's being done to teenagers, and it is irreversible. The damage that's done to their brains will last them for the rest of their lives. It impairs cognitive functions in teenagers. So if we care about teenagers, then we should maintain a prohibition against marijuana use. It ought to be contrary to public policy, just like it always has been. The regular use of marijuana during adolescence could damage brain function, according to the University of Maryland School of Medicine, potentially increasing the risk for schizophrenia and other psychiatric problems. So this could contribute to schizophrenia in a teenager who uses it. Scientists examined cortical oscillations. Well, I have absolutely no idea what that is, but these are the patterns of the brain's neuron activity. These oscillations become abnormal when schizophrenia or other psychiatric disorders are present. Young mice exposed even to low doses of THC, which is in the active ingredient in marijuana, for 20 days. When they became adults, their cortical oscillations were severely modified. The mice showed signs of impaired cognitive functions. The finding is that even though the mice were exposed to very low drug doses and only for brief periods during adolescence, their brain abnormalities persisted into adulthood. The author of the piece, Dr. Asaph Keller, we looked at the different regions of the brain. The back of the brain develops first. The frontal parts of the brain develop during adolescence. We found that the frontal cortex is much more affected by the drugs during adolescence. This is the area of the brain that controls executive functions, that's decision-making functions, such as planning and impulse control. It's the area most affected in schizophrenia. So it increased the risks of schizophrenia. It damages permanently certain cognitive functions such as planning and impulse control. All right. Focal Point AFR Talk, 888-589-8840. Let's grab a couple of phone calls. Let's go to Roy, Richmond, Virginia. Roy, welcome to Focal Point. What's on your mind?
Hey, bro.
Hey, Roy, how you doing?
Isn't it obvious that every time Barack Obama's in trouble, the race card pops up?
Yeah, that's kind of their default defense card that they play every time they trot it out.
Has anybody ever suggested that the reason why Democrats don't like Ted Cruz is because he's a Hispanic? Of course not, because grown-ups don't play that way. And I'd also like to thank you for being an honest man. You're telling us that Nelson Mandela did some good things and he did some bad things, unlike the people on the left who only can see really good people or really bad people. And the really good people are the ones who agree with them, and the bad people are people like us who disagree with them. And that's like whitewashing the truth. And they should tell the whole truth, or at least more truth, because we're tired of the lies. And if Obama goes down in history as one word, it'll either be liar or communist. And I hate to say that, Brian, because I have so much respect for the presidency of the United States. I've never felt this way about the president. Everyone I know is scared to death of what he's going to do next. And we need to get him out of there as soon as possible.
Well, and I appreciate the call, Roy. Thank you for that. And, I share with Roy, and I think we all ought to have a respect for the office of the presidency, because we know that the office of the presidency is a position that has been created by God. We know that from Romans 13. There is no political authority of any kind, whether it's the local sheriff or whether it's the president of the United States. There is no political authority that has not been established by God. So the question then becomes, if this is a position that God has established, the issue then becomes, how is this sacred office being used? Is it being used for noble purpose? Is it being used for purposes that are consistent with God's will? Or is it being corrupted? Is it being twisted? Is it being used for purposes that are evil in the sight of God? And part of the reason that we are critical of what occupants of the Oval Office do, and I've been critical of George Bush for any number of reasons, the reason we are critical of people where it's appropriate is because of the respect we have for the office. Because we know that that office has been established by God, and we want it only to be used for purposes that are consistent with the will of God. And if somebody uses that office for purposes that we do not believe are consistent with the will of God, then we are going to complain about that, because it's taking something that God has given, a precious gift, a valuable gift, the gift of political authority, and it's prostituting it, is misusing it. It's because we have respect for the office. It's not because we don't have respect for the office that we criticize occupants. It's because we do have respect for the office. All right. Thanks, Roy. Good to hear from you again. And by the way, I think you're right about liberals being spooked by Ted Cruz because he's Hispanic. I'm looking for the poll. I can't seem to find it, but I've got a poll in here that talks about President Obama's plummeting approval numbers among Hispanics. It's like down from 75% to 52%, if I'm remembering my figures accurately, and I do not know now where those figures are. I printed them out. I got them somewhere here in the stack. But President Obama's approval numbers among Hispanics are dropping like a rock. They are going through the basement. So my memo to the GOP is, look, don't pander. You don't have to pander to Hispanics to get their votes. They are abandoning the good ship Obama in droves. And where are they going to go? There's only one other option, the Republican Party. Don't pander.
Few words offer more